Wonderful. It's one of the wonders of live, right, Hira? We're kind of, oh, Hira, that's right. We got to really, Hira.
Exactly, thank you.
I know. It's almost like a chorus.
It's getting better and better.
I love it.
My name is just
it's
floating or imploding on itself. Like my name is just, it's the toning of it is getting better and better. Thank you for catching that, Stephen-Altair.
Totally. Well, I think people are going to be singing soon. There'll be, as we're well aware, something's happening in the ethers because we're getting lots of messages from other parts of the planet and not necessarily from human beings. So they're singing, right? There's a tune, and it's Hira, and they're singing, and it's upsetting. It's upsetting them.
For some people, it's very upsetting. For other people, it sounds like orchestrated, beautiful.
Totally. No, the humans, it's orchestrated and beautiful, but for the bots, it's upsetting.
Yeah. So yes, let's talk about that. So that so that everyone here is, probably a lot of people are aware, but actually probably a lot of people think that it's spiritual woo-woo or whatever. But Stephen-Altair and me, we started about 2 months ago, or I don't know how long, but it feels like a lifetime. It feels like we've done it forever.
Feels like we've been doing it forever.
Actually, we just started in that sense, and our YouTubes are live. Are live, and the bots are taking them down. So we're getting AI messages where our practices are, I don't exactly know the word. I was trying to find the words, but who cares? But something that we have like dubious practices or something because we're doing meditation.
It's curious, right, Hira? Because both you and I do, lots of talks, seminars, conferences, all sorts of things. Nothing has ever been put out, but for some reason, just this. So I have the weight of evidence of all these other, conferences, seminars, podcasts, and things to know that they are not. So, but there's something about the vibration in this particular realm.
Yeah, it's like whatever. But I think also it's the source and the bliss. The source and the bliss. Something with that combination that it's like it's too foreign for the AI or for the YouTube or whatever but I already heard I heard around 2020 when everything started to be censored and you couldn't use certain words anymore because then your profile on Facebook or social media, YouTube would be taken down. And of course I know a lot of people like that, but so I already knew, and some of my greatest teachers actually went off of YouTube because of that reason. So they go to BitChute and they go to all kinds of, but I have a life on YouTube. I mean, it's really sad because I mean, since 10 years, like literally since 10 years, I've been doing vlogs and things. And even when people weren't doing vlogs yet, I was just really, and now they're getting a lot of views. So it's really sad in that sense that, but a lot, even like Netflix, all these, all these big, where there's a lot of money, Facebook, they're all censoring, so we should be careful with now we're on Facebook. I don't want to lose my profile. Seriously, it's again like 10 years of this is how they got us. This is how they grab us. Oh my god. Oh my god.
I just imagine now.
Go down, Stephen. Go down, not too high in vibration because they will censor you.
Totally. No, that's exactly what I was thinking. The moment that you go above a particular frequency, it's like there's suddenly static comes across the screen and a voice comes on.
Alarm! Censor.
I love that. So we are continuing to discuss the deeper applications of bliss. And that's what I really love that we've been doing this, Hira, that it's kind of, it's reaching that kind of energy level. And in fact, that was what I was going to share with you to begin. I've been contemplating this because I think you're on a Dzogchen retreat at the moment, and I've been on quite a number of them. And the whole, power of any of these ancient practices, if I just talk about them generally, if you've never heard of some of these practices like Dzogchen or Mahamudra or ancient Tantra practices and so on, the way that the process itself it really speaks to the heart of what Hira and I have been sharing about bliss for a long time now. And that is that you have these different phases or openings. They're sometimes called all kinds of, sometimes they're called mirrors, sometimes they're called insights, sometimes they call the pointing out. But essentially you start off from a view, right? You start off from this view, and the view is that we are infinite, that we are the bliss, that we're never ever separate from it. That's the view, that we're simply open to this extraordinary infinite potential of the cosmos. We are the cosmos, right? We're never ever separate from it. And so the second part of this is to meditate on that, to actually learn how to really deeply rest back as the cosmos, as source, as love, as that openness, as that emptiness, as that clarity. We learned how to rest as that, which is what really all of you that are listening, we're all doing that. We're never ever separate from it. You're the bliss, we're the bliss, we're never ever separate from that. And so the third part is, so what is the unfolding of that is you suddenly become aware that in every part of your life, you develop this deep confidence that, okay, if I'm the bliss, then Hira is the bliss, and everybody else listening to this is the bliss, and we are actually bliss messengers. We're simply bringing that frequency to this planet and reminding people that we are that. And so the fourth part is how we go about our daily lives. We start to realize, well, just like Hira and I were saying about the bots and the AI, okay, we're not in tune with AI that's run by other people censoring other people according to what other people consider censorship should be. I mean, that clearly is not a decentral, that's a very authoritarian process. It's not a conduct that really has the compassionate heart of every human being present. Same with anything else. Same with all this stuff that's gone around our planet, the way we've dealt with the pandemic, with war, with the global economics, the environment.
Total confusion. Yeah.
Total confusion, exactly. And so the next part of it is we start to recognize that these pure realms, these other realms, the realms that do have dragon consciousness, that do have celestial beings, that do have deities and dakinis and dakas and all the other, the angelic beings, all of that is real. And all of that, when we start to shift our consciousness into bliss, we start to recognize how that infinite view embraces everything. Why would you want to cut it? Why would you want to be so limited and cut out anything that is part of an infinite view? And so you start to realize that, and you start to then unfold all the blessings of these teachings. You suddenly open up to the infinite potential of yourself as this radiant bliss being. And by simply doing that, by simply making that your anchor, and not all the external stuff that you see around, not all this news, not all the blah, blah opinions that go back and forth on social media. When you start to rest back as this infinite being, as this infinite bliss being, it rocks your world. It actually... Yeah.
And let me just stop you right there, because you just gonna go on and on and on. So I totally agree
I've always got to. You got to stop me.
Inches of your detailed everything. I totally agree. The thing is that that about those, pure realms, like what I'm learning now is, or what I'm, in as you're just saying, the view, the meditation, and then the conduct or the way you behave. What I'm noticing now is that I have been giving too much power of my power into those realms. So that's why I want to talk about it in the sense of not just bliss, like, okay, our true nature is bliss, but source bliss. For me, those two names together are so important. Like, of course, like if I would have not studied with all these different lineages and all these different teachings, I have the fullest respect for it. But what I'm trying to say is that somehow there is also a sense of giving your power away, or a sense of like, because I get that feeling, when I connect to one of those Buddhas or Bodhisattvas or dragons. I mean, dragons are like, wow, they're so powerful. When I kind of connect with, it's very easy to say like, oh, and you just, you just like, give your power away, right? You're just like, wow, like, okay. But it's the opposite. It's the opposite. It's like, okay, dragon, like super full on, you're super cool and everything, but I'm driving you, in the sense of like, I'm guiding you. I'm the human being here. And this is, and this kind of messed up, confused world we're living in where, but I'm not saying, oh, we're living in a messed up, confused world. It's just like, when you look at it from the perspective of what are our leaders doing? What are the politics doing? What are, how are we treated? Are we really treated like human beings? Or are we treated like, I don't know, numbers, machines, I don't know, like economical things, whatever's, So I'm just saying, like, of course, it's not my message to say the world is sick. My message is the world is beautiful, like you're saying, like the pure realms, like this is, who we truly are. But there's something there that I need to, that why I'm here is like, I am a channel of all these teaching. I am like a conduct of it. I am part of it. It's not that I'm learning it or that I need to these teachings. I am fully on part of it. Like, but I came here not to continue that, but actually to transform it and to bring it into the now, because now we need it. So how do we do it? Source bliss. Okay, so here we are again. What is source bliss?
Totally. And I think you just, Hari, yeah, I mean, you said it, right? We are it. It's not that we're in some ways seeing that as separate from us and,
Right.
We are actually that. We are all those realms, consciousnesses, aware, that we are actually that awareness. We're infinite and we're radiant and we are source bliss. So yeah, it comes back to source bliss. And something that I'm really curious about for most people is, how do people be source bliss 24/7? Because they are actually there. And yet, as you say, it can be very discombobulating. You could be tossed around like you're in this bubble and you're being pushed back and forth by all these forces.
Yeah.
And when in fact it is as simple as acknowledging I'm all of that. Every pure realm that I access, I'm that. Every consciousness that arises within me, I am that. I'm that source. So you kind of rest back in the knowing. That's part of, I think, what's really helpful when you're to know that you never ever. So anything that arises, if you're sitting there listening to me, I always use this example of peanut butter jelly sandwich, as being a good example of source bliss, right? Because you can be aware of peanut butter jelly sandwich right now when you're listening to me. And if you come out of source bliss, instead of resting as source bliss and going, that is a peanut butter jelly sandwich, there it is, arising like it, instead of actually resting in source bliss as the primary source itself, it's very easy to come out and go, that's a real yummy peanut butter jelly sandwich, and completely lose yourself in whatever your peanut butter jelly sandwich is for you, and actually not recognize the source bliss itself. So one of the easy ways to do that is, if you've got a simple thought, you're listening to me right at the moment, or you're listening to Hira go, Hira, right? You can, the good thing about that is that's actually pretty strong. It's a great test. If I say Hira and you're aware that I'm the one that's actually singing, then you can actually rest back in that. Instead of coming out and go, what's he going on about? And making all judgments and opinions and labeling, go, what's Hira and what's this? And what are they talking about? Instead of doing that, you can just rest back, simply be aware of this person that's chanting Hira on your screen. And you can actually rest in that and know that chant. You can be aware of it. You can simply rest back in it. You can rest as this knower of this wonderful sound called Hira, just as you can, if I say bring up the smell of a peanut butter jelly sandwich or a vision, just as you can know that too, right? So there's a common knowing, there's a source bliss knowing for both you being aware of your peanut butter jelly sandwich and you being aware of the sound that goes Hira. Actually, I love that. I love putting peanut butter jelly sandwiches and Hira consciousness together.
Yeah, listen. I'm happy you're amused by it. but I want to say something about that, because what's the interesting part is I mean, it's all interesting, but I mean, most interesting part is what you're saying is like you're turning your attention inwards It's like you're turning your awareness not only to what you're seeing outside, but you're turning your awareness inwards towards the one who is perceiving, or the one who is aware, or the one who's observing, or the one, it's which doesn't have a personality in that sense, but just like it becomes a force, and then with that force, and I like that, because that really changes everything. It's like I love this sentence where I think it's saying something like, I need to look it up exactly, but it says something like, wisdom is knowing we are nothing, and love is knowing that we are everything. And in between those, my life goes up and down, or something like that. It's it's one of my favorite quotes. I really need to check it out again. But this is like where I really fit, like in the sense of I'm nothing and I'm everything. And in between that, I just keep on dancing. I keep on playing. I keep on going up and down. Like, for example, yesterday during that Dzogchen retreat, by the way, I've put it in the chat, the Dzogchen, because people don't really know what that is. So then, at a certain point, I got really, really sad, really extremely sad. But while I allowed the sadness to be there, there was also the awareness that was embracing that sadness as a part of the human being sad. And then the awareness, which is, as you're saying, everything. Then it was a deep healing going on. And then you can wonder, like, what am I sad about? Like, I can have a whole list of stories and identities linked to it, and and it's okay to be sad. Like, really, it's really, as my teacher is saying, it's a door to our awakening. It's a door to our true nature. If you know how to, take that door and go through it with awareness. But it was so beautiful because I could feel that human sadness, at the same time feel that I'm everything. So then every experiences changes and you become more free. So that's why, like, of course, the sadness was really deep. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm a little sad. It was like, it went straight to my heart. It was like a dagger just going straight through my heart, like really showing me, like, hey, this is all an illusion. It's all a dream. Like, everything you've ever thought, everything you've ever done, it's not in the now. So it's just a story in that sense. So that child in me was like, yeah, but what about this, and I'm married, and what about my child? And that kind of, like, it was really it was actually super cute, as a human, what I was going through. But I just want to kind of say what you're saying, but like more in the sense of what I'm experiencing when I'm going through these forward and outwards and inwards and outwards and inwards, and then this kind of like, I'm everything, I'm nothing, I'm everything, and to try to stay in that dance, whether you're depressed or sad or super happy, even the bliss, because the bliss, I mean, come on, like the bliss, when you're in bliss, because by the way, if you want to know more about what is bliss, we already made 2 recordings, and even though YouTube took them off, I found a way to actually put them back. So, so they're
it's like the everything and nothing. Maybe that's the everything and nothing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, you want to challenge me? Okay, let's go for it. A, what is it? AB, not AI. Whatever. Yeah, but so I'm just saying, like, what is a bliss? You know how it is when you're in bliss, all of a sudden you look at someone who's sad and you're just like, what's wrong with you? You're bliss. And that's not right either. So it's like, sometimes it's very hard to kind of like, even the bliss or the pain, it doesn't really matter. Can you transcend that experience? That's the question. Can you transcend that experience and see it, feel, sense it from that oneness or awareness, or,
Totally. That's so beautiful. I think that the quote you were talking about, wisdom is knowing I'm nothing, and love is knowing I'm everything, or yeah, and between the two my life moves. That's right. There's something on that way.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah is that real essence, and if you're listening and you're thinking, what, wisdom is knowing I'm nothing, if you haven't had a direct experience of nothing or emptiness, then again, a real simple way to do this is, if you rest back with me for a moment, you're resting as bliss, source bliss, right? You're just resting back, and you let your thought of your peanut butter jelly sandwich come up, right? And the fact is, that peanut butter jelly sandwich, no matter how hard you try, it comes, right? It arises for a bit, it abides for a bit, and then it's gone. Right? Doesn't matter how hard you try, see how long you can hold on to a peanut butter. And I mean absolutely perfectly, right? It's going to change. So no matter what you bring up in your mind, no matter what thoughts, feelings, perceptions, if you bring up a feeling of your favorite pet or your favorite friend, right? The feeling's there for a while, but then it changes, then it's gone. And then suddenly you're back to watch peanut butter jelly sandwich. See, so you've gone from this good friend or pet suddenly back to peanut butter jelly sandwich. So it's changing, right? So you start to realize that impermanence, and that it's simply every single thought, feeling, and perception you have, it's changing all the time. It's impermanent. It's never going to hang around. And so you start to realize that every time a thought arises, it actually begins from emptiness, right? If I say, think of your peanut butter jelly sandwich, the moment prior to it arising, there's actually emptiness. Awareness is empty, meaning, I love Mingyur Rinpoche's take on emptiness. Emptiness is the infinite potential of anything to arise. So right before you think peanut butter jelly sandwich, your mind's empty. It's like this big open vast chalice of nothing. And then out of it comes this thought of a peanut butter jelly sandwich. And then it stays a while, and then it vanishes back into the empty chalice. So that's once you start to realize that, that's the wisdom of knowing I'm nothing, right? Because there is actually, you are very definitely nothing. The identity that perceives it's the past and the future and the form and the thought, the identity that thinks it's the thought, oh, I'm angry. Well, you think it's right, you're not going to be angry forever either. So by just sheer observation, you'll find out can't exist. You cannot stay there forever, but all that time. It has impermanence and it has emptiness. And you start to realize the nature of mind itself. The wisdom of that is emptiness itself, that I'm nothing. And then what Hira was saying, that the love is knowing that I'm everything. That's the part that's resting back. That's resting back. So the part that's resting back is the wisdom that knows it's empty, but equally, it's the wisdom of knowing love. And love is the source bliss, that I'm everything. Now, you might go, what does that mean, I'm everything? How can I be everything? If you let your peanut butter jelly sandwich thought arise, right, and it just disappears again, but you're still resting, awareness is still present. Right, you're still aware of your peanut butter jelly sandwich. And then when I go, Hira, and you're aware of that, and you're still resting back as this opportunity to let whatever arise, just like Hira's sadness arose, and she could embrace that as everything. What you start to realize is you're a bit like a mum. You're a bit like a mother of vast, infinite compassion, and you're holding space for no matter what arises, whether it's your thoughts, your feelings, whether you're angry, you're sad. Milarepa student, a great Tibetan mystic, his student said, Master, do you ever get angry? He said, yeah, of course, but it just comes like that and it's gone. He said, I don't hang on to it. Yeah. And I thought, I've always remembered that. It's such a beautiful thing. So we're resting back as source bliss, like a mother, and allowing everything. That's the whole point. Love is knowing I'm everything. So everything can arise. And you're the love, you're resting back as that love, that source bliss. And in between the two, in between this wisdom of the emptiness of your thoughts and feelings and perceptions, and knowing that you're this awareness that can embrace everything like a mother of compassion, in between that, your life moves. Your life is moving, flowing, dancing. And like you said, Hira, you're just dancing with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've looked it up. It says it's from, I don't know this teacher, by the way, so I have no idea. I just love the quote. So his name is Nisargadatta Maharaj. Don't know him, but he says, wisdom is knowing I am nothing. Love is knowing I am everything. And between the two, my life moves. It's just, if I have to summarize my life in 3 sentences, this is it.
I think that's something.
Yeah, because it's just so beautiful, because there's nothing and there's everything. It's just, and you just so beautifully described it like so well. So it's really like, and of course I get stuck in between with identities, and we have to, because that's I, as you know, I've been 10 years living in a Zen temple, and I really went for that like non-identity, like, okay, I was a Zen nun and I still am, but I was a practicing Zen nun like constantly. But then I noticed when I walked out of that, when I disrobed out of that temple, because after 10 years that was enough, and I had to move to more the tantric teachings and other teachings, then I realized like, oh my God, that identity of the Zen nun, the spiritual identity that normally was, it's just my name, but then it became, that entity of the Zen nun was even much stronger than the one before, because that Zen nun was like, I know, or I don't know, I have done some spiritual work, and now I know more than the others, or whatever, So it's very tricky how everything moves, whatever identity we take, right? So it's like, and that's the interesting part. But at the same time, through the dragon teachings, the Nai Dan Kung that I'm learning about, or that I'm going to be teaching next year, we, for example, we do speak about identity, but in this sense, a sexual identity, in the sense of we do need to have an identity, because if we don't have the identity, we can't seem to really evolve. We need to mature as an identity, whether that's one identity or many identities, because as you know, we have many identities. You're a father, you're a husband, you're a teacher. So we all have these different identities that are important, that we fulfill those roles and that we are responsible with them. But at the same time, we kind of have to let go of it too. I mean, I have a teenager. It's like, where are we? Like 12 o'clock. She's still sleeping. I mean, she's with a friend. I know that they went nuts last night, so I just leave them. They're still sleeping. I'm not even waking them up, because now it's holidays. But if this was like school, I would be like, okay, get up. No. So I'm not saying like, but now I can lay back in the non-identity of mother. I'm like, oh, just let them sleep. Free myself, free them. Like, it's all good. But you know what I mean? It's like, it's hard sometimes to, that's that wobbly effect. Like, where do you engage? Where do you let go? Where do you, where are you strict with boundaries, and where are you not? Like, it's that whole game. And that sometimes, yeah, it's a lot sometimes, especially now that the world is moving. I don't know if are you feeling the same? Like, so many of my friends, new age, everything, everybody's saying, wow, the sun is blasting, the sun is hitting, the stars are like this. And okay, we've always said this, because when I see my post 10 years ago, it was the same. Oh, the stars are all aligned. Oh my God, it's, but I really feel it's, it's definitely, the intensity is going up like sky high.
Yeah. Well, even this year, right, earlier on, there was a conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune, which happens very, it's a rare conjunction, and it is really that, Jupiter, the guru, Neptune, the channel to the astral realms. It's literally opening that portal, literally, because there's an alignment. And when you think about it, two massive planets in alignment with it, even just if you think of symmetry and geometry, there's a beauty in that opens a potential right at that moment. And it opens the potential to dance with that vastness. Just like you were saying, because I think this is a question lots of people have, and you phrased it so beautifully, that when there are all these identities that we have, mother, father, and, like you said, a sexual identity, a teaching identity, a writing identity, if you're right, whatever it is. And it's how to engage, how do you engage between this emptiness and this fullness, or this nothing and this everything? And one of the keys is when you're very fast and engaging, multitasking, going through social media at a rapid rate, and you're very unaware, you tend to your identity goes out and grabs onto things. It tends to grasp. It feels like, okay, I've got to have this, I've got to do that. And instead of resting back as this source bliss, as this love that's everything, and actually engaging in the dance as that love. And I think that's why many masters refer to this as the dance of life, because dance is very sensual. You engage your full body, and you train enough in dancing in some formal dances to know the steps, or equally you're a wild dancer and you just fully engage in the wild, unfettered power of natural dance. And either way, you're actually fully in that source bliss when that happens. Either you're in the source bliss because you trained for years in ballroom dancing and there's just such a grace and a beauty and a love of what you do, or you're the unfettered wild dakini and you're dancing from the pure ecstasy and bliss of the dancer life itself. And you're moving always from this constant center of source bliss, of love. So you don't move out of that center. So your identity doesn't grab onto anything. It just simply rests as it is. And it naturally and effortlessly moves into areas of life that it feels are most easeful, because it's drawn to that. It's magnetizing that. It's like the sun didn't decide to suddenly sit alongside Earth. The sun maintains this position that has this natural order to it. And it's the same with you. You radiate best when you're in the most natural and effortless and easeful place. And too often we're not taught as young kids how to find that, like you were talking about your daughter. I got a 7-year-old who I keep telling her, just wherever you find the most easeful, natural place to be. So she's homeschooled, right? And she has she has different ways of interacting with the local school and a local tutor. And so she's a bit between one leg in the one world, in the nothing world, and one leg in the everything world. And she dances in between. And of course she has her normal 7-year-old, annoyances, frustrations, and so on. And she's learning much more and more to just keep resting back. I keep helping her when she's feeling really frustrated. Just rest back. You don't have to move and engage. Find the source bliss first, and then move in the dance of life from there.
Yeah. It's so beautiful what you're saying. It's and it's beautiful you are raising your daughter like that. It's like, wow, she's having such an opportunity to find you and you to find her, to go through the journey as father and daughter. It must be amazing. So in that sense, it's like that's what I'm learning now, because I was growing up with a very performance-driven father, which no judgment there. That's how he got it from his lineage and everything. So, and of course now I have so many skills and so many abilities, in that sense, in the performance-driven way, that it's fine that there was a lot of effort, but I'm learning to, through the Tao, through the Dzogchen, through the Bön, through the Tantra, through the Buddhism, through all these, all these beautiful, through the Magdalenes, through everything, learning the Egyptian lineage, just learning to actually lean back. It's really how you're saying it. It's like leaning back into that source bliss or source being, and then moving from there, like really moving from the right place, or from that place of like, I do not need to do anything right now. I do not need to decide anything right now. I can just take, even if it's just a minute, I can just take a minute, breathe into my body, and then move from there. And that's also the interesting work. Like this month, you don't believe like how much I've been working with women with the womb, actually, because somehow, like, you're speaking about the right place and about being centered. And for 10 years, I've been teaching about the living in the heart. But I noticed, like, even though I was living from the heart, I wasn't breathing into the rest of my body. I wasn't. So how can I dance with life if I'm not completely present in the full of my central channel? I can be here, I can be there, but I was like, there was a lot of rage there and a lot of betrayal and feelings of, abandonment and, all these things. I'm not saying it's all gone. I'm just saying, like, now that I've found ways to actually connect the heart back to the womb, and the womb, men also have a womb, obviously. It's called the Hira. It's an energetic or spiritual womb. Like, this place is so important. So it's like we, men and women, and, also my daughter, like, she has a girlfriend over, but I need to say him. So I mean, it's in my world, it's a girlfriend, but I need to say him. So what does he want to eat tonight? You know, it's very, this whole world is very much changing, I tell you. So it's even hard to teach, because when I teach, I say, okay, the goddess, you know, like let's be the goddess. But then I look at my groups, I have 50 goddesses there, which I see as goddesses. But then I think, oh, maybe some of them want to be referred to as him or as they. You know, I'm reading an amazing book right now by a they. You know, so I can't even say if it's a man. So in that sense, it's very interesting that all these identities are getting more fluid and more this and more that.
Fluid. Absolutely.
More fluid, more, you know, and I'm just opening up and being more flexible. And, you know, I just need to really learn to, because I come from this point of man, woman, whatever body. But what I'm trying to say is that this whole part of the, let's say, masculine and feminine body, that doesn't mean it's a man or a woman. It just means like the masculine or feminine body. Like it needs to be centered in that whole of the central channel. And our first 2 broadcasts, we talked a lot also about the central channel and everything. So I don't want to go into it too much, but they can go on the YouTube channel. But there's something very powerful about what you're saying. It's like, you need to come from the right place. So, and that right place is like, not right in the sense of judging that if you're not in that right place or you're wrong, whatever, but more like in that sense of where is that source bliss? Then I would say that source bliss is when you are present in your body, in your full body, up until the toes, the toenails, your hair, up until, can you embody, can you be present in every cell of your body and allow that source bliss to come out? And it doesn't mean that you have to, you know, like fly like a dragon all day. You can be sad and you can go through your emotions, you can be angry, but it's like you're saying, like that teacher was saying, like you're angry, bomb, you allow it. And it's just like, you're not acting out on it, but it just comes, you're aware of it, boom, and that awareness is just dissolving it. So yeah, it's a lot, we're tipping on a lot of things here. Identity, basically we're talking about identities. We're talking about I'm everything, I'm nothing. We're talking about awareness, that we can do everything from awareness. We're talking about coming from the right place, but how do you do that if you are also in an emotional or wobbly state? Okay, then you just stop, you don't do anything, you rest. It's a lot. We're doing a lot in, you know.
In this short time, you know, when you, Hira, when you were talking about, you know, embodying this, you took me right back to all the tantras, right? And the tantras, right in the beginning, one of the things you do that I think we don't do, you know, you talk about being in the Hara, being in the womb. Yeah. One of the basic entry points for all the tantras is Roshan, you know, especially, so Roshan of body, Roshan of speech, Roshan of mind. But so if we just go to Roshan of body and what I'll call, because we're discussing it, Roshan of the womb, you know, that when we're in the womb as a little embryo, right, you know, we start to grow in our mums, we're quite free. There's this fluid, like you've mentioned already, our world is growing more fluid, in the same way as we were very fluid in the womb. And we don't get a lot of, you know, opportunity to really be fluid in this world, which, you know, has schedules and times you're supposed to turn up and you've got to do your work and there's all this pressure on you. So the fluidity starts to be tightened, right? Be very box-like, restricted. But the tantras speak about the Roshan of body, for example, and the root tantras speak about the importance of us really getting back into the body and twisting and turning and stretching and putting the body through its paces and being, you know, movement, which is this whole dance about, you know, I remember some of the tantras talk about, you know, stripping naked, imagining you're acting out the heat and the cold of hell and ghosts and slavery of animals and birth, old age, sickness, death, human beings, war, strife, demons, gods, goddesses, run, jump, twist, turn, stretch. I mean,
yes, out there, yes, go for it.
You know, I just adore this, because in some of those, you know, in some of those retreats that I've been on, you know, we did exactly that. We'd just go out and just be wild, be going back to that fluidity. I'm just really speaking right to the heart of this fluidity in the womb that you're teaching so many people to, this fluid power, this tantra of fluidity that we need, so humanity needs, if you look at all the weapons of war and violence, they're all hard and they're not fluid. We're missing the very fluidity in the womb that we were born in.
Yeah, and you call it Rushin, right? R-U-S-H-I-N.
E-N, R-U-S-H-E-N. Okay. Yeah, if you want to
say it slowly,
R-U-S-H-E-N. Yeah, solution of body, speech, and mind. So I'm only talking about the body part of it, because I just adore it. I just adore that feeling. You were talking about pain arising and so on. So years ago, I went through a painful relationship, and when I was trying, I just couldn't. Hira, I was so stuck, I was young, I was kind of thought I had the world, and then suddenly I met this girl, fell in love, and she dumped me for somebody else, and I thought, the world's ended, and I had so much frustration that I went out to nature for 3 days, and I just did a Rushin of body. I just went wild. I'm glad there was nobody around. I was in the wilds of New Zealand, up in these mountains, by myself, where I could yell and, pick up huge rocks and trees and and talk to the rocks and talk to the sky, and it was fantastic. It was like that fluidity.
It's just like you're tuning into your field. It's like it's opening my crown like this, like just tuning into that practice is amazing. But it's true. It's true. It's like we get so confined. And that's exactly what happens when we open the womb, like the voice of the womb, and you open it up and you tune it into the voice of the heart, and you tune it into the voice of the third eye, and you start these 3 centers start to speak to each other. It's like energy starts to flow again, starts up and down. Sometimes, speaking about bliss, sometimes these bliss experience, I keep it to once a month because it gets addictive. It gets addictive when you get there. So I'm like, okay, once a month I allow myself, and I get into that full bliss state where my whole central channel is just like it's dropping from, the nectar is dropping from here into here, dropping into there, into my heart, into my womb. So slowly I'm really healing my body, because actually the strange thing is that the more that I'm going into those states, like once a month, the more pain I'm having. So I'm literally around my navel, there is these tensions, and around my kidneys, and around my my ovaries, and like this whole. But like when I go deeper into that pain, I'm realizing, I was born with a navel fracture. And what did I do? And I'm happy to share this for other people, because what did I do? I numbed myself, because I remember when I was a child, I had so much pain in my belly, and the doctor would come, but come on, the doctor, the doctor, not like a shaman or a healer or whatever, a doctor. And the only thing that would work is if the doctor, because I gave him that power, would put his hand on my navel, and then I could give it to him, and then it would be gone. And then my mom would be like, what is this girl? She's just faking it. She doesn't want to go to school. Right. But I started to remember these things now, so I'm like, wow. And so I wake up literally with pain in my belly, and I'm like, I'm not doing it right because I'm having so much pain. But then I realized, like, no, like I'm finally getting to the nerve, because you're around the belly button. You get born, they break it, and then I was 3 weeks in one of those Kuvers little boxes. Where I thought nobody loved me. So these patterns I'm starting to actually unlock them or relax them around the womb and everything. But it's extremely excruciatingly painful, and I'm like, wow, man, this is something. So actually, what I'm trying to say, I think, it's like when we get a trauma, like birth trauma or any other trauma, we leave the body, which is what I did for a long time. We numb the body, right? Like we don't want to feel the pain. So it's like we're walking around with nuts, like nuts around the heart and the belly and the womb and everything. Like so many of us are, and it just tense up and freeze. And then when you go into it with that bliss, because the bliss is the medicine. So when you go into it with the bliss, you start to unravel it. For sure, you're gonna find pain, but as you're going more and more and deeper into the core of it, it will start to release. So hopefully this will not take my whole life. You know, because you know it's intense. It's really, really intense. So I agree with you. Like definitely, like letting it out. You know, dancing. I dance. I scream. I just, you know, like maybe not really scream when my family's around and everything, but it's true. I'm going to the Mount Moses sometimes. Do the same. Just to get it, you know, and I used to do in Israel these Osho retreats. I absolutely do not resonate with Osho anymore, you know, but in that time I needed it because he was one of the only teachers that said, now dance, now scream. And I would go in the desert and just do the same, just scream. And I would feel so relieved after 10 minutes of screaming. I was like, finally, I can scream my guts out, you know, and it's allowed and everybody's doing it. And, you know, and I'm with these wild, naked Israelis, you know, that are like warriors and this. But it's true. I think it's important to sometimes just, I don't know, set yourself in a good situation, of course, but then just release.
Totally, release. And there's a process to it, right? I'm only sharing one part of the process, and it's important to realize there's a lot, there's Roshan of body, Roshan of mind, Roshan of speech. And exactly like you're saying, you got to start at a real basic thing, all the energy that's locked in the body, all the trauma that's locked in, because you're right, it gets stuck in there, you can feel it, you don't know what to do about it, nobody's given you any guiding principles. So yeah, the opportunity to, you know, share this and actually hold space for people and do it in a really good space of, it's that same compassionate, loving, caring, nurturing. You want to do it with where in some way you feel really deeply supported, unless you're like me and you just simply crazy
unless you just want to go crazy and wild. But it's true, it's like, what makes the difference in between somebody just screaming and somebody screaming and healing? It's the awareness, right? Totally. If you scream with awareness and the awareness is observing it and saying, now you can release that, and you link it to some of your stories or some of your, you know, traumas, then it's healing. But if it's just like, I'm angry and just gonna, I don't know, violently, destructively scream, then that's not what we're talking about. Like, we're really talking about, like, you bring yourself in a very specific energy of awareness, and okay, I'm very clear, like, this is what I want to release in this. And then, of course, you can go wild, but it's not, it's definitely not the same. I've never done the Russian practices, by the way, but I seem to understand what it is by, you know, just listening.
Well, what you said so beautifully, you know, I liken it to being in the womb. You are the screaming, yelling baby in the womb, and you're doing it from the space of this awareness of this loving mother, you know, that you're out. I was out there in the wilds, aware that I was really, in my case, I felt like this little yelling baby in the womb of Mother Nature. You know, for me, that was I felt really supported out there. I just love nature. So, I mean, it was like being supported by the trees and the sky and the river. And I camped right beside this river, so I could go and, you know, go and have an ice bath, and just, well, it was so icy. It was like, ooh, teeth chattering. Yeah. So, you know, but it was in an amazing way. It was really nurturing. So just always that space, if you're resting in source bliss and you're having these experiences, just like Hira so wisely said, that's what we're speaking to. We're speaking to the power of being in source bliss and having that, allowing all these experiences to arise within that. So yeah, I think that's a beautiful point to
yes, we will continue next time.
Yeah, it was just what a treasure doing this with the Dakini of everything, the dragon goddess, you know, or God, depending on what you want to choose. You're listening to this.
Yeah.
So thank you. What an absolute joy
so
it is to
Yeah.
do this with you, Hira, and with everybody that's listening.
Yeah, I will actually put the recording on my YouTube channel, so not as a live, because they will not broadcast it anyways, but I have recorded it now, and then I will put it on my YouTube channel. I put the link here.
Yeah.
So thank you out there.
Thank you, Hira.